covering the High Plains with news, weather, and information. From TV23 Studios in Sublette, this is High Plains Today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of High Plains Today. I'm joined today by State Representative Shannon Francis of the 125th District. We're going to talk about some stuff that's going to be happening this week in Topeka. How are you today?
Good.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Are you packed and ready to head to Topeka?
Not packed yet, but I leave in the morning.
All right. I'm going to tell you, we're taping this ahead of time because he's getting ready to head back to Topeka. So we're going to kind of talk about some of this stuff. This is going to play after they're already in Topeka, so it could be interesting.
Yes, it could, and I don't think anybody
This wrap-up
knows.
session is not going to be so much of a wrap-up deal, is it? Or is it?
I don't think anybody knows what to expect out of what the legislature is going to do over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Leadership has said that we're going to be home by May 6th. Speaker of the House, that's his expectation. But it could just wind up a lot of different ways.
What are you don't have any idea what to expect?
I have no idea what to expect. There's going to be a collective will of the body, and we're going to address some important issues, or we'll choose not to address them, unfortunately. I guess, one of the things I think we ought to talk about today is the results of the consensus revenue estimating group that came out April 20th. And that'll be the big heavy lifting that we have to address this session.
That's gonna be the elephant in the room when you get there.
That's the elephant in the room. There's two things actually that are the elephant in the room. There's that, and then also it's how the Supreme Court rules on the equalization bill that we passed right before we left. They're going to have oral arguments. I believe it's May 11th.
May 10th. They
May 10th.
Yep. They expedited that. They hurried that up just so they could.
Right.
They could see what you guys would do or have you get it done by July 1st.
And that's the deal. They'll issue a opinion sometime after that, maybe as quickly as 2 or 3 weeks. And then, depending upon that opinion, we could be required to go back for a special session.
Don't unpack your bags in a big hurry, okay?
Yeah. That's one of the things I think that they have to deal with is, do we get what we have to get done as quickly as we can in expectation of that special session? Or do we try to fix it, not knowing what the outcome of the Supreme Court ruling is going to be, and then have to come back anyway?
All right, so those are the two big things. Plus, you're going to have a few things that you're going to have to wrap up, just small stuff, right? Compared to those two?
Yeah, everything will be small compared to those two. One of the things that will greatly affect Western Kansas is the property tax legislation. That's in conference committee. So that's one of the things that can come to the floor. I'm concerned that that'll pass. I think that's another one of those pieces of legislation that some of the people in the urban area want. I think it affects every community different based upon where it is geographically and the size of the community. What they want to do is they want to limit any property tax increase by a city or a county that exceeds the inflation rate. At your first look at it, what they want to do is force it to go to an election. There's a couple of things that happen in the property evaluation system that are very time sensitive. And one of the problems is that the counties, I think, currently have to have their budget done by somewhere around August 1st. So if they would increase their taxes above the inflation rate, they would have to then have an election prior to November to have that approved by the people. It sounds simple, but it's really much more cumbersome than that.
Every time you try to put together a special election, though, it's not simple.
And it costs money, special
Yeah.
election. So you want to have it. You want to have it at the general election, and then we already have ballot fatigue by all of the races on the general election. It's just
yes, because you moved everything too.
And think about Kismet. The town of Kismet, I believe, gets around $60,000 off of property taxes. So if they increase their budget by, let's say inflation is 2%,
Sure.
by more than $1,200 in any one year, they'd be required to go to a special election. The election could cost more than the property tax increase. Anyway, it's a cumbersome issue. It's another one of those things where Topeka is trying to solve a problem that really doesn't exist.
So, but with oil and gas valuations and those types of things in western Kansas, isn't that going to just create a big mess?
Well,
or not?
The language says if you increase the budget by more than inflation, CPI index. So if oil and gas valuations go down, they can increase the mill levy on the homeowner and the farmer and the businessman to compensate for that. And again, I think that's part of the deal where people are, their mill levies are going up, their property taxes are going up, but it's because other classes are going down. Another thing that really affects us out here is if you lose a valuation battle at the Board of Tax Appeals, that doesn't count as an allowable property tax that you received. So if you lose that value and your entire valuation goes down because you lost the court case, you can't recoup that. And it happened recently. ExxonMobil won a case that they'd filed and repeatedly refiled on evaluation. And so if you lose that case, that doesn't count in the valuation. It's a real cumbersome deal. It's not as simple as it looks.
It's a thick one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's a weedy problem.
Hold that thought. We're going to come back and we're going to address the big elephant in the room. We're going to talk about state revenues, etc. I'll be back with Shannon Francis right after this.
You're watching High Plains Today on TV23 with host Chris Jewell. TV23's internet service and 4G live streaming provided by United Wireless. Coverage you deserve. Service you expect. United Wireless.
And welcome back. I'm joined by State Representative Shannon Francis, District 125. It's getting ready to head to Topeka.
Yep.
All right. We just talked about a little of everything that's going on in the last segment, but let's talk about the big one. The state revenues came out last week.
Right.
And they missed them again.
Yes.
For the 16th time out of 18 or something. I think they've gotten 2 right or close.
Yeah, something 2 right in the last 15.
Yeah, and I think, but they've only missed a couple of them by a few $1 million, and I guess when you're talking billions of dollars, that's not bad.
No, that's not bad. I think the last one we were $1.5 million short by the time you got all the factors in. The one before that though was around 53 million or 58 million, I believe, and that hurts no matter what, especially when you've got a 0 projected ending balance to begin with.
And the Constitution says that the legislature or the state is supposed to have a certain percentage in the bank.
We're supposed to have a 7.5%, which is around 485 million. We've waived that over the years and just tried to make sure we have a positive balance.
Hopefully you get to 0.
That's right.
All right. So as it looks now, before these revenues and stuff came out, and the governor was going to withhold a payment to Capers to help balance things. But when this came out last week, we're not at 0 anymore, right?
That's right. We're currently consensus revenue estimated that in this fiscal year, as things stand right now, we'll be $140.1 million short. And then through the end of fiscal year 2017, we'll be $151.3 million short.
In addition to, or is that what the ending balance will be?
That'll be the total ending balance, a minus 140. So the governor made three proposals to the legislature. He said, we've got this $140.1 million ending balance. And by the way, that number can change because we still have to see what April's revenues, May's revenues, and June's revenues come in. And again, like you mentioned earlier, we've been short 14 out of the last 16 months. So your expectation has to be we're not going to hit
all of a
those
sudden
numbers.
we're not going to be 140 million long in the next 3 months, right?
Could be something less than that. So he gave us 3 proposals. his first proposal, he said, was actually on all three proposals, he wants to take the remaining amount of money that Kansas Department of Transportation gets for sales tax, and he wants to put that in the general fund. For this year, that would be about $70 million. For next year, it's about $115 million. So from the start of this tax plan in 2012, we went from putting about $100 million in Department of Transportation spending into the general fund. Now we're up to about $515 million a year. So all three of his proposals say we're going to take the rest of the KDOT sales tax money and put it in the general fund. When that happened, KDOT came out and they suspended all modernization and expansion projects for 17 and 18, and they said we don't basically have enough funds to do this and renovation also. So we're going to do the next 2 years, we're going to do the renovation projects, and the expansion and modernization projects are on hold. Interestingly enough, none of those projects that are on hold are located in the urban counties. They're all in rural Kansas.
Yeah, kind of like out here. Because the two, okay, now we do have one underway in Seward County.
That's right.
Already. That 3.5 miles is going to go forward out around the Arcana
That's right.
ethanol plant. But the other two that are going to bring that together are on hold.
Right.
And then there's 4-lane up, from Cimarron to Dodge City or something like
Yes.
that? On US 50. Those two also got put on hold.
Right.
So those two are really what affect us out here in southwest Kansas.
Yeah, they're the biggest ones as I'm looking through
So
this.
we've gone, the state has rated the Bank of KDOT for $500 million
A year.
a year.
That's what it will be going on forward. And it's basically the rationale, and of course, Johnson County and Sedgwick County, they've got their project started, and they're going to be completed. So this sales tax money, that's one of the things is why are we putting sales tax money into the Department of Transportation? Well, the reason is because we passed a T-Works plan, and the people of Kansas said, raise our sales tax, and you can spend it on road projects.
Yeah. The people say, yes, please. Okay, so we're going to rob the Bank of KDOT. Well, we're going to drain the Bank of KDOT. All right, what else? Now, that's $70 million. Where's the rest of it going to come from?
$70 million in the first year, $115 in the second year. So that, just so we know, it's $185 million over 2 years, $185 million more than what we're already taking. Another thing that's going to happen is we're going to have another 3% reduction for K-State, KU, Wichita State, all of the universities in the state of Kansas will get hit for another 3%, which is about $17.7 million, I believe. Then after that, the proposals start to change. His first proposal and his preferred proposal is that we're the recipient of some tobacco settlement money from a national tobacco lawsuit. We get about $58 million a year from that. And when it was when it came into effect, we said we're going to spend that money on children's programs, early intervention, try to get to kids early on where we can have the most impact. What the plan is under the first proposal is we're only going to keep $42 million of that money for children's programs, but the additional approximately $16 million now, we're going to talk to a Wall Street firm and we'll securitize that. So we'll give up $16 million a year in income for the next 20 or 30 years, and we'll receive next year somewhere around $158 million.
Okay. All right. Stay right there. We got to come back and talk about that.
Okay.
All right. You're going to explain that more. And I'll be back with more with Representative Shannon Francis after this. And I'm back, and I'm still joined by State Representative Shannon Francis, District 125. We're talking about Topeka stuff. All right. Before we went to break, you were talking about the $58 million we get from the tobacco company settlement.
Right.
And they're going to take $16 million of that,
right,
give it to Wall Street.
Every year for the next 20 or 30 years.
And in return, they're going to give us $150 million up front.
Right.
Say, okay, you give us $16 million for the next 20, 30 years. We'll give you $150 as a down payment on this deal, and everything will be rosy.
Yep. Yeah.
Sounds like a payday cash loan deal to me.
Well,
But it might, I don't know.
I don't know. You know, I think everybody can make that decision on their own, whether they'd rather have 150 million up front or 16 million a year for the next
But
20
does
or
it
30
fix
years.
the problem?
None of these solutions fix the problem.
That's the problem. That's the problem with
They're
the problem.
Band-Aids. You know, I think the budget director basically said we're doing all of this based upon the hope that the economy improves, and in 2018 we'll have sufficient cash flows to restore the services that we're cutting right now. And to go into, you know, the second plan is, he gave us 3 proposals to look at, the governor did. The second proposal is this CAPERS payment that we're putting off in the fourth quarter of 16, in addition to the cut to the universities, and in addition to the KDOT money, he wants to put off repaying that until 2018, in the hopes, again, that the economy's turned around and there's sufficient funds to repay it. That's about $92 million.
But that comes with a penalty of they have to pay that back with interest, right?
Well, that's the way the legislation is currently. We can always change those rules. But again, we've got a problem in CAPERS as far as it being an underfunded liability for the state.
Yes.
And we borrowed $1 billion last year to try to correct that unfunded liability that we have there. The governor also gave us a third option, real quickly, that doesn't involve either of the first two. These are his least favorable proposal in his eyes, and that is, I think we cut about another $137 million from agencies across the state. Primarily, it hits the institutions really, really hard. The universities, really hard.
Well, yeah, doesn't it hit the universities for like another 5% or something like that?
Yeah. You know, for instance, if you look at this, the Department of Health and Environment gets hit $35 million. Department of Aging, $11 million. K through 12 education gets hit for $57 million.
Ouch.
KU and KU Med are $10 million. K-State, $6 million.
If you hit education, though, for $50-some million,
Right.
the Supreme Court's going to look at that and go, well, there's
Right.
no way on the equitability deal that you've got coming up in May.
That's right. That's why all of these proposals that we're putting forward, they're just kicking the can down the road. You know, we're going to have to at some point kick the can down the road to solve this problem, but the solution is looking at our revenue. You know, we've talked about this earlier. There's problems throughout the state, whether it's 30% turnover in our staff at the prisons, whether it's staff shortages and overtime at Larned and Osawatomie mental hospitals, whether it's 20% shortage of highway patrol officers across the state. We've got a lot of problems. We're running out of pots to take the money out of to kick the can down the road any further.
Well, yeah, because you know, and you and Garrett Love and John Dahl and Russ Jennings, you've all said, you know, these one-time sweeps, and that's what they are, one-time fees. I mean, you can't go back to that well anymore, right?
That's right.
All right, so we got about a minute left. What about, will anything come up about the tax cuts in 2012? Will any of that be done, anything be dealt with on that during this wrap-up? Or
There's
not?
a proposal in the House and a proposal in the Senate to address that issue, and it'll be up to leadership on whether those make it to the floor. The governor has said, and he said when he was talking about the budget, he does not believe that this is the time to raise taxes. He thinks that if we just stay the course, our revenues will increase, the economy will turn around, and he'll be proven right. So if they do make it out of the House, if they do make it out of the Senate, you know, we still have to deal with the possibility of a veto.
He's been saying that a long time, Shannon.
Yes, he has.
A very long time.
Yes, he has.
It's getting tough. It's getting tough for people to sit around and go, all right, we'll give you just a little more time.
Well, and you know, I think, you know, let's look at this. You can use the tobacco money one time. We can use CAPERS the other time. We can do the cuts in the third time, and
At some point, you gotta fix it, don't you?
we do.
Yep.
We do.
I don't envy you.
I don't either.
You're in for a fun week.
Yeah.
All right. Shannon, thanks for coming by today.
Yeah.
It's always good to see you. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
All right. And thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Keep up to date with the latest information from TV23 on our Facebook page, KDGL TV.